Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today is a very special episode of Splat from the Past because I'll be interviewing a final girl whose name very rarely ever comes up in 80s cult films in hindsight, and it's an absolute shame. She's very talented. Suzy Stokey, or Susan Stokey, as she was originally billed. She was in the 1984 cult classic The Power, very underrated supernatural horror film. And then she got fame as one of Fred Olen Ray's repertory players in such cult classics as The Tomb, Armed Response, Star Slammer, Deep Space, and The Phantom Empire. And that, by the way, this is her entire filmography. She got out of the business, and now she's been back the last couple of years being in short films, which I'm going to ask her about today, and I can't fucking wait. This is a very rare podcast appearance from Suzy Stokey, and I'm so lucky. I'm the happiest fanboy in the whole wide world that I got her on today. So, here is my interview with Suzy Stokey. Hey, Suzy.
Hey, Tommy. How you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, it's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, this is awesome. So, going back in time, did you gravitate towards acting early on?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I was in every play in my school, and my dad also was one of the early pioneers of television, and so he won the first Emmy and all that stuff. So I'd grown up in a household that was very involved in just the entertainment business in general.
Oh, I didn't realize that. What did your dad do?
My dad, well, his name is Mike Stokey, and he was a producer and an MC. He had he helped create the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Television Arts and Sciences, because he was on TV. And his big show was Mike Stokey's Stump the Stars, or Pantomime Quiz, and that is actually the charade show. He's the one who started the, on the nose and sounds like and all that.
Yeah.
And so that's what he won the Emmy for. And he was on the air actually from 47, with that show, from 1947 to 1964. So at the time, it was the longest running television show in history. So when I was really little, I mean, this was all before my time, but when I was little, I remember being stopped on the street with all, wherever we went, Disneyland or wherever, people taking pictures of my dad. And it was exciting. He gave Marilyn Monroe her first television experience, Lucille Ball her first exposure. So, yeah.
Wow. So do you have his Emmy?
No, dang it, my brother has it. It's so not fair. I have the small Emmy that he got for being the president of the Television Academy.
Oh, okay.
But, my brother grabbed the big one. Makes me mad.
Yeah, that's why you got. If they're like if the relative is buried underground, you got to bury him with the award.
No way, man! I'm grabbing it. When Mike's gone, my brother Mike, it's mine, baby. But anyway, yeah. So I've always loved acting, always.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you're born and raised in Hollywood?
Yes, and right above the Sunset Strip, in this fabulous house. Our house was so great when I was growing up. It had once been owned by Ray Bolger, who was the
Scarecrow.
The Scarecrow, yes, in the Wizard of Oz. And it was at one time a Howard Hughes summer mansion, I guess, what it was. But it was just this beautiful home. I just loved growing up above the Sunset Strip and right in the middle of West Hollywood in the old days. It was really fabulous.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot now, but...
Yeah, I 3 years ago, I started coming back to Hollywood for the first time since 1990, and I can't believe how much has changed.
Oh, just since then, yeah. Actually, I think the actual city of Hollywood is getting nicer and nicer. They're really cleaning it up a lot. So I think they're trying to restore it to the glamour that it once had, which would be lovely because Hollywood is so glamorous. I think all the filming should come back to Hollywood. I'm just hoping that'll all happen.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's just, in a place of disarray right now,
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So after high school, did you study acting with anybody famous out there?
Let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh, see, this is what I'm worried about, Tommy. It was so long ago. I took classes pretty much with everybody that was out there at the time, and it was a different world in those days.
Mm-hmm.
You could submit it was first of all, it was almost impossible to get into the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
It took me 4 years to do that, and Fred Olen Ray is the one who really got me. I'll always be thankful to him for that. But you could I would just promote myself. There used to be this magazine called, now it's called it's called Dramalog. And so every week all the actors would get it, and you'd read what was filming, and you'd send in your headshot and your resume. And that's what I was doing all the time, just sending in and hoping for to get an audition to get cast in something. So it was more like hit the ground running and try and get cast.
So your first movie was the underrated cult classic, The Power.
Oh, you know about that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, that was that was my first film. It was really fun. It opened theatrically. They sent me on a press junket. I got to go to San Francisco. I mean, it was fun. But yeah, that was a great film. Jeff Obrow and Stephen Carpenter directed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stephen Carpenter, a couple years later, directed The Kindred with another guest of mine, Julia Montgomery.
Oh, really? How wonderful. Wow.
Yep, and Rod Steiger is in it, too.
Oh, wow. Oh, he's so fabulous.
Yeah, he was one of the greats. But
yeah.
So did you audition for the role?
Yes, for The Power, absolutely I did. I remember they lived in Westwood. I think Jeff and Stephen, they were in some kind of communal house kind of thing, just filled with actors and crew and, creative people. And, I went down there and auditioned several times, and I was so thrilled when I got the job. It was it was a lead. I mean, it was really exciting. My first big lead, yeah.
Yeah, the movie has this creepy vibe that really complements the supernatural scares. It's kind of like this one movie that came out a couple years later called The Gate. It's got just stuff that you just don't expect, to happen, and nature and the wind and everything. It's just it's really effectively creepy.
Oh, I know. It was scary. I mean, I couldn't drink Kahlua for years. I always felt that the weird little creature looked like the guy on the Kahlua bottle. I don't know. I remember even saying at the time that, it was actually a really scary movie, and I'm not good with scary movies because I'm too emotional. I get really scared. And I was actually scared when I was making the movie, which sounds so silly, but it was really creepy. In fact, one of my scariest experiences ever happened on The Power. Mm-hmm. There was this one scene, I don't know if you remember, I had a scene where I was having a nightmare, and during the nightmare, these arms
yes.
pushed through the mattress
yes.
and grabbed me and strangled me, right?
Yes.
And so I'm filming this scene, and the fellow there were people under the mat. I hope I'm not giving any Hollywood secrets away, but
no, go ahead.
There were people under the mattress, and holes had been cut in the mattress, right, for them to shove their arms through and get me. So the camera's rolling. I start having this nightmare. These arms come up through the mattress. This fella grabs me around my neck and literally starts strangling me.
Oh.
For real, strangling me. And I hadn't been ready for it, and I hadn't even taken a big enough breath before he grabbed me around the throat. I didn't even have the breath to scream. I just remember I'm thrashing around, and I was trying to get the camera guys to understand that I couldn't breathe, but they just thought I was giving this fabulous performance. So I swear I thought I was going to black out. I had lights flashing in front of my eyes, and the guy had no idea how hard he was grabbing my throat. In retrospect, it's really funny, but at the time, it was scary. I thought I was going to be choked to death, so that was very scary.
Yeah,
it was just like guerrilla filmmaking. Everything was done by the seat of your pants, So there were really no safeguards in those days.
Yeah, I was
going to figure out a safe word or a safe sign or anything.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that scene because to me that's the most memorable scene in the entire movie.
It's the most what?
The most memorable scene in the entire movie.
Okay, well, that's probably because I almost died. So thank you, Tommy. You're reacting from the gut. You know, you're feeling my actual absolute terror.
Yeah.
I mean, it was scary, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Scary but fun, yeah.
Yeah, and all the actors that were in that movie that you worked with, I never saw them in anything else after that.
You know, I don't think I did either. The kids were great.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was great in that film. I remember that. I'm just surprised I haven't seen any of them again. I remember at one point, Jeff took me out to this lunch. Jeff Obrecht took me out to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Told me, and it was my first film, and I wanted to get a publicity person and do all this big push and all that stuff, what you're supposed to do. And he said, Suzy, I don't think so. I don't think the film is really going your way. And I was just I was devastated because I was just devastated. So then the film comes out and the reviews come out, and I got the reviews. Mm-hmm. So I was really happy. I never really talked to Jeff again, but I wanted to say, hey, fella, see? Because I think that this one, that I got a really nice review in the Times, and he said, well, there it goes back to really being scared. He said that I really sounded like I was a very believable screamer, and let me tell you, I was really screaming. So that's the story of the power. But I'm surprised because the actors were so good in that. I'm surprised that they weren't all working again, right away.
Yeah, but then again, Hollywood's always been a tough place,
Oh my gosh, it is so tough. It's tougher than anyone can ever imagine. Mm-hmm. It really is. It has a lot to do with how talented you are, but it has so much to do with who you know and the way the wind blows and how your luck comes out. And it's really hard. It's tough. My entire family is in the entertainment business. We always have been. Mm-hmm. And it's a roller coaster, but if you love it, it's the best business in the world. There is nothing more fun than being on set and acting, for me, as far as I'm concerned. So, but yes, it's extremely tough.
Yeah. So how did your association with Fred Olen Ray come about?
Well, I'm trying to think. The way I remember it, Fred saw the power, mm-hmm. and he really loved it. And he called me in, and we talked about Star Slammer. Fred might remember it differently, but I don't remember auditioning for Star Slammer. I just had the lead, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. I thought, oh, this is how it works. I wish it still works that way. But anyway, so he did call me in, and he was just wonderful. His whole crew of people, it was crazy. They would get together and hole up in cabins someplace. I mean, this is what I pictured. Have these crazy, wild weekends where they would write these movies, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Come out, leave on Friday, come out Monday morning with an entire script written. And he always worked. It was wonderful. It was really like a family. He and Michael Sonny and Dawn, they worked with the same people all the time and just had a shorthand of how to do it. And it was like, I don't want to say Ed Wood initially, filmmaking, but you know what I mean? It was because in the beginning, this was at the very beginning of Fred's career, it was low budget stuff. And he could make an egg carton. Like I remember some of the sets on Star Slammer. Mm-hmm. I swear, it was so much fun. It was just like all kinds of stuff put up on the walls, like egg cartons and this and that, and painted silver. And then on camera, it looked fabulous. I don't know how he did it, but he could make magic. Seriously, he could make movie magic because he made things look so real. I mean, it was just fantastic. The Jagger rats and Star Slammer. All these things. Star Slammer is a crazy film when you go back and watch it. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, I had Fred on last summer, and I love his childlike enthusiasm for movies, and I think he could have been a huge mainstream director if he had chose to go that way. I mean, I love his gratuitous tits and ass movies a lot, but I think he could have been a mainstream director.
Well, I agree. In fact, I actually was watching TV during Christmas time, and I was watching, how everyone watches Hallmark. Well, I don't know if you do, Tommy, but girls do a lot. Hallmark films at Christmas, that kind of a thing. And it turns out Fred's directing it.
Yeah.
and I'm like, Fred, Hallmark, yay! There were no rats. There was no nudity. It was, it was a really warm, wonderful, Hallmark Christmas film. So I see what you mean. I mean, I totally agree. But also, he worked with Russ. Who's the big B movie guy?
Oh, Russ Meyer.
Yes. Yeah. You know what I mean? No, it's not Russ Meyer. Is it Russ Meyer from the 50s?
Yeah.
King?
Russ Meyer.
Yeah, right. So Fred was following just a classic tradition, of wonderful. Plus, I guess as a young filmmaker, you want to make something that's going to sell.
Yeah,
especially in the beginning, he's making stuff that's going to sell. I mean, it never. I was always the straight man in his films, But he would always surround me with beautiful, basically Playboy bunnies. I don't think people even know what a Playboy bunny is these days, but in those days, it was, these beautiful girls. I mean, they were just statuesque, beautiful girls. And so he would populate the films with them and his bad guys, and then he'd have one straight woman, and that was me.
Yeah, you look at a lot of his movies now, and Russ Meyer's movies, in historical context, they're very misogynistic, but they are so damn entertaining and funny, especially Fred's ones.
They're popcorn movies. They're great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What else do you want? I mean, everything can't be politically correct and incredibly heavy all the time. Come on. We have to lighten up sometimes, right?
Absolutely. I love politically incorrect movies. I was reading, though, that Star Slammer was shot in a grocery store or a liquor store or something. That's fucking insane. Only Fred can pull that off with such a low amount of money.
I'm telling you, but he would do it. I mean, I remember, oh my God, he would use can we move to Phantom Empire for a second?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because that was so fun. Phantom Empire was like a journey to the center of the earth kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And Sybil Danning, the very famous playmate, was in it, and Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator. Yep. So anyway, it was like going to, and it had spaceships and dinosaurs. It was crazy. And Fred would use this thing that called forced perspective, where, I mean, it was just, we'd have these itsy-bitsy little dinosaurs. When we were looking off the distance or whatever, you'd see a dinosaur, or you'd have like a UFO that was on a string. But the way he put the camera and the way he shot it, the proportion was perfect, and it looked so real. And I never understood how he could do that. But it was, so yeah, we're talking about low-budget filmmaking, but what you got on screen had so much bang for your buck, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on Star Slammer, you played the harmonica for real.
You like that? See, you know what? That's my favorite scene. I don't know. I could have done 10 minutes. I don't know why Fred... When I played the harmonica with my nose...
Yeah. How did you do that?
I don't know, Tommy. I was just thinking, okay, I've never seen a harmonica before. What is this crazy thing? And first I smelled it, and it was dusty, and so I kind of sneezed out, and when I exhaled into it, it made that noise. And it was so surprising and wonderful, and so I played it with my nose. I thought, thank you for noticing that. I thought that was really cool. And Fred's like saying, oh my God, Suzy, seriously? Okay, if you want to do it, you do it. But I just love that. Even when you're in these really ridiculous situations as an actor, you want to try to find the truth of the moment. Mm-hmm. So that was my truth for Star Slammer. This sounds silly, Tommy. Sorry, but
it's okay.
You have to find those moments that are meaningful to you. So that was a meaningful moment to me. So thank you for even bringing it up.
Oh, yes. I love silly, so don't worry. Do you have any good stories about Ross Hagen or Aldo Ray?
Oh, my God. Well, Aldo Ray, first of all, just the nicest guy in the world. And even at that time, he'd been around forever. And I think he was even on my dad's show, which is funny, because my dad would have all of these huge celebrities on his pantomime quiz show. So Aldo was on my dad's show. And so we had a lot of history going back there. But Ross Hagen, what I remember about Ross, he was such a gentleman. He was devastatingly handsome in person. Mm-hmm. And his teeth actually sparkled in real life.
Wow.
You know how when they put that little star effect on it?
Yeah.
TV show? that was Ross in real life. It was crazy. So, and he was just a wonderful. I think he had done a lot of soap opera acting as well as Fred's movies, and so he was just a journeyman actor. I mean, he just had a great attitude, and we just had a wonderful time together.
Yeah, Fred told me, he was a big fan of TV shows and old movies, and he would cast people in those that, hadn't been able to work anywhere else. He kind of got that from Roger Corman because he did the same thing. Roger
Corman, that's the name I was trying to think of the B-movie king. Right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, he's the B-movie king, but Russ Meyer, his movies were B-movies, and they were very misogynistic.
Yeah, they were the ones with the boobs and right, all that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know because Fred look, John, the people that you got to work with, Cameron Mitchell, John Carradine, Aldo Ray, all these incredible people that he would cast. I think it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And then you two followed up with my personal favorite, The Tomb.
Oh, The Tomb. Did that come after Star Slammer?
I know Star Slammer was shot in 1984. This was shot probably in 1986. I know the writer Ken Hall a little bit.
Ken Hall, I remember Ken.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought Phantom Empire was next, but The Tomb
may have been.
Was.
Yeah.
Pardon? That was when I got to work with John Carradine.
Yeah.
And it was like a vampire film. And two things I remember about The Tomb. First of all, I had no credits on it, which is really funny. They completely left me off the credits, and that made me really sad. But it was just like a mistake. So if you look at the box on the VCR, I don't even know if it's come out in DVD, but I'm not even on it. So that was, these things kind of happen, and you're like, what? But after the fact. And then the scene I remember the most in The Tomb is it was really scary. I got put up on this big cross, on the top of this. I just remember the top of this mountain, this ginormous cross. I swear it must have been, in my mind, it's 50 feet high. I don't know. I think it was that high. And all these gasoline barrels on fire underneath me, and they actually had to tie me to the cross. They're not going to nail me, thank you, but they tied my wrists and my feet to the cross. I don't remember how I got up on it, with a big crane or something, and I was just on the cross on top of this really windy hill with fire coming up. I swear I could feel the heat, and I was thinking, this seems dangerous. The wind is blowing, the cross is jiggling, I'm way up in the air, there's nobody around me because they're filming a big scene from far away, and I just thought, I'm either going to catch on fire or this cross is just going to fall straight on the ground, and I'm going to do this really embarrassing face plant, which would be awful on film. And that's basically all I remember about The Tomb.
Well, I'll tell you my 2 cents about it. I used to watch it on USA Up All Night when I was 8 or 9 years old.
Oh my gosh, you're a baby.
Yeah.
You're a youngin'.
I've always liked your character in it. She's so adorable and empathetic. And
oh, thank you.
And she kind of reminds me of Barbara Crampton in From Beyond, except her character was not so lucky as yours.
Oh, I haven't seen From Beyond. That's what I'll have to check out.
Oh yeah, she nearly gets sexually assaulted by a monster in that movie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes I'm lucky I was a straight man. Not too much ever really happened to me, I don't think. I usually came out of Fred's movies okay.
Yeah. And this
it's the beautiful, sexy girls that are expendable. I guess that is misogynistic, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
But this was the first time that Fred worked with Michelle Bauer, who's been my dream woman since I was 8 years old.
Really? What a nice girl. I got along, Michelle and I, we really got along so well. She was terrific. I love Michelle. She was just the nicest, and she really, really loved acting, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She really wanted to we would run scenes together, and she's terrific.
Yeah, I remember.
She went on to do a lot of things, didn't she? I know she did, Chainsaw Hooker Massacre with Fred later?
Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, right. I get all the names mixed up, sorry.
And Beverly Hills Vamp, and lots of movies she did with Fred and Jim Wynorski and David Dakota, all those guys who made these type of movies. But
right.
I remember she did hardcore porn, or not, softcore porn before this. In fact, I remember one time seeing her in one where everyone was tickling each other, and so I kind of had a fantasy at that age of being tickled by her.
Being tickled by Michelle.
Yeah.
Oh, well, have you had her on the show yet?
I haven't been able to locate her.
Oh, I wish I could help. Gee, it seems like anybody can locate anybody these days, though. You got to work harder there, Tommy.
Well, she always changes her name.
Oh, right.
So I don't know what name she's going by these days.
Yeah.
Do you have any...
I don't know where she is, probably.
I think I asked him, and I think she wants to keep it a secret or something.
Well, I have my fingers crossed for you on your quest for Michelle.
Oh,
Be tickled by Michelle.
Yeah. Do you have any good John Carradine stories?
Not really. I mean, we just, he was just, I think I was a bit in awe of him, he was like such a Hollywood legend, and he was just wonderful to work with. I mean, a little hard to hear.
Yeah.
A little mumbly, but I mean, he was just lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, the first movie I remember seeing you in that Fred directed was Armed Response.
Oh my gosh, that was the last thing. I think that was the last thing I did with Fred. That was what was so great about Fred, because as I was saying, in those days as an actor, getting into screen acting skills was really, really difficult. Mm-hmm. And I mean, unless you did commercials, I had friends who would say one word in a commercial and get their SAG card. And I had done 4 films as the lead, and I still couldn't get into the Screen Actors Guild. And then Fred moved up to do union films, and he put me in Armed Response, and I got my SAG card. And I mean, I think I'm in it for all of like 40 seconds before I get blown up.
Yeah.
But I said enough, or it was enough of a featured part that I got into SAG. So, Fred legitimized me in that way, and it was great. Nowadays, it's super simple, much simpler to get into SAG.
Yeah.
But in those days, it was really hard. So yeah, I got blown up in Armed Response. That was really fun.
Yeah, Fred told me.
All I remember is putting lipstick on in the rearview mirror of that car before it blew up. Boom.
Yeah. Fred told me this was his most successful movie in terms of box office, and it got a wide worldwide distribution from Columbia TriStar Pictures.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's because David Carradine was in it, right? Yeah.
David Carradine, Lee Van Cleef, Michael Berryman.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it's a really good, underrated action movie.
Oh, well, I'm just going to have to go and watch it again. We're talking quite a while ago,
Yeah.
Gee.
That's what I do. And then Deep Space, do you have any good stories from that?
No, the only thing, Deep Space, I just had one little scene in it, but the weird thing is that they were shooting downtown Los Angeles. And the morning that I was supposed to go down there and shoot my scene, there was an earthquake, a pretty violent earthquake in LA. Not the big one like 94, but there was a solid shaker. And they were downtown, which has like old buildings and overpasses. And I was like, there is no way I'm going downtown. There's no way they could still be filming this. We just had an earthquake. So I kind of was sitting around the house, and, Fred calls me and says, Suzy, where are you? And I'm like, Fred, we just had an earthquake. Are you seriously filming downtown? And he said he was. And, of course, when you're an actor, you just go where the work is. I mean, I was really scared. And I was also pregnant, which I didn't want Fred to know. So I was probably kind of like really nervous about everything. And so that's all I remember. I just scared to death, drove down to downtown LA, did my scene, and hightailed it out of there. So that was that. And Fred never found out I was pregnant until my husband and I met him and Dawn up at this wonderful place in Burbank called the Castaway. I don't know if you've ever been there. Do you live in LA?
No, I visit a lot.
You do, yeah. It's like this mountaintop restaurant. And I was so excited because I was like 7, maybe 8 months pregnant. I just wanted to walk up to Fred and say, ta-da! I don't know why. When you're announcing a pregnancy or seeing an old friend that doesn't know you're pregnant, it was exciting. And of course, I don't know, I was in the ladies' room when Fred walked in, and my husband, Carmine, he said, oh, so Suzy's pregnant. I was really mad. So he blew the surprise for me. But I think that is probably the last time I saw Fred.
Wow.
So, I went on to have kids, and he went on to an incredibly successful directing career. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite of all the movies you did with Fred?
I think probably, I don't know, I love Star Slammer and Phantom Empire, but I think Phantom Empire, because I love dinosaurs. I got to work with Robbie the robot from Lost in Space. I went all fangirl on Robbie, so that was exciting. And also in Phantom Empire, that's where I got to be, barbecued on a spit by a tribe of underworld mutants.
Yeah.
I mean, girl doesn't get that happen to her every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was really something. I mean, I was actually tied to this giant pole, and they're turning it. I'm on a spit, and it was really something. That scene has stuck with me.
Yeah.
I loved it. Hey, these are the best movies in the world, these kind of films. They are certainly the most fun to do.
They are the best, yes. And they need to be revived. They need to be shown. When I watched them on USA Up All Night, when I was a kid, they were brand new, but now they're classics, and they need to be shown by a horror host these days.
I agree. I absolutely agree, yeah. Because there's a lot of them out there, and Fred probably has done half of them.
Yeah. So did you get out of the movie business because you had kids?
Yes, I mean I had 3 kids. 2 of my I have 2 girls and a boy, and both my daughters are actresses. So I've kind of been on set with them, especially my youngest, Juliet. She worked constantly as a kid, all kinds of guest roles and stuff. So I spent a lot of time traveling all over the country with her, being like her set guardian, and it was so much fun. So I got to stay on set, which is my favorite place to be. And but now they're all grown up, and I'm really, I'd like to get back into my acting. So that's what I'm doing right now, trying to, sort of like recharge my acting career and get back out there.
Yeah,
in a different world, an entirely different world than it was then. So
yeah,
so we'll see.
I see on IMDb you've done a couple short films.
Yeah, I think I've done about 6 now in the last year or so that I've been just getting my feet wet again, films by young directors that get sent to film festivals and things like that. But, just got to, it's like starting from scratch again. And like you said, it is a tough business. But you just have to enjoy the journey. That's what I tell myself and my kids and, my husband. I mean, he does my husband Carmine he's been the official artist for the Hollywood Walk of Fame for forever, for 30 plus years. So every time a celebrity gets a star on the Walk of Fame, Carmine hand paints it. He hand paints the plaques that are handed to the celebrities.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Which is so cool because we get to go to every star ceremony and, it's just really exciting and really fun. And so we do that for our business. But at the same time as he was doing that, he was a scenic artist. So in the studio. So he was in the business as well. He worked on everything from the original Blade Runner all the way up through, Inception and just gazillion films, everything in between. He was the standby set painter on those.
Speaking of Blade Runner, we just lost Rutger Hauer.
I know. Isn't that awful?
Yeah, he was one of the greats. That was terrible.
Fantastic, yeah. I know.
So do you ever get invited to conventions or screenings for the movies you did back then?
No, I wish I did, actually. That would be fun. I mean, I know I was in Fangoria and things like that in the old days, but I think that possibly because I was the straight woman, and I wasn't the sexy siren in the films, that I just didn't get put on that list. But boy, that sure would have been fun. It would have been great. But no, I haven't done any of that.
I hope
maybe when these films come back, maybe if there's a resurgence, I'll be at Comic-Con. Who knows?
Oh, God, I would love that. We did Comic-Con.
That would be fun.
Any Comic-Con anywhere in California, I'd just show up. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
my daughter just did, my daughter Julia was just in Vancouver shooting a guest role on a show called The Magicians. Mm-hmm. And they shut filming down because the entire cast was going to Comic-Con.
Wow.
That was last week, so it must have just happened right now, yeah.
Where was she at
Maybe
again?
They have them in Canada as well as in California.
Oh yeah, the Canadian comic book scene, Comic-Con scene is very booming right now. I know a lot of people, especially people I've interviewed, who are going to Canada for different Comic-Cons like every couple of months.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it's so big. Wow.
Yeah. Well, in general, I mean, the Comic-Con scene's booming everywhere, but in Canada, it's really hot right now, and they're starting to get more and more cons over there.
Oh, that must be where the whole cast went then.
Probably.
Oh, yeah, because they just shut down production for, the end of the week, and everybody went to Comic-Con, so.
So, there's a game that I like to play with guests, and how this works is, I ask you a silly slumber party question, you answer it, then you ask me the same question, and then I answer it.
Okay, sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm. Suzy, are you ticklish?
Yes, I am. Tommy, are you ticklish?
Oh, you know I am.
Especially if Michelle is tickling you, right?
Yeah. I am just baby ticklish. What is your favorite part of the body?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know. This is dangerous. I don't know. I think a man's arm. I just love a really strong, muscly arm on a man.
That's a popular one. I get that one a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me, what's your favorite part of the body?
I have always loved the belly button.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think belly buttons are so strange looking.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they're in, they're out, they're weird, they're wrinkled, I don't know.
I take it you don't contemplate your belly button.
Not too often. No, not really. That's a very strange part of the body to love, but,
Yeah.
Okay, Tommy, I get it now. You're very strange.
Yeah, but I can tell you like me.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you. What color are your toenails painted?
Oh, light pink. What? Wait a minute, Tommy. What color are your toenails painted?
They are clear colored.
Clear. Well, that's nice because they're shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to touch up on them though. They're a couple weeks old. And my favorite question, and some people are really sensitive when it comes to smell. But do you have? Is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
A stinky smell?
Yeah.
Oh, it has to be barf. It has to be puke. It's the worst. Like I could never be a nurse because if I smell it, I want to throw up. It's awful. Oh, I can't stand it. I'll run in the other direction. Ask my kids. I mean, I'm a great mom except for that. Except for that part. What about you? What's your least favorite smell?
Well, there's consistent things like farts, of course.
Of course.
And, I had a car accident a few years ago, and when I got out of the hospital, I had really bad athlete's foot for about 6 months.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That was pretty bad. Yeah, I don't wish that on anybody.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even imagine that. Well, no wonder you paint your toenails.
I've been painting my toenails since I was 13.
Really?
Yeah. So it didn't happen because of that. So there's a couple of funny jokes I have.
Okay, I love jokes.
Oh, yeah. Some of these are a little misogynistic. Are you surprised?
Nah. Thank God we all have a sense of humor, right?
Right. Okay, everybody knows the old nursery rhyme. There was an old lady who lived in a shoe. She had so many kids she didn't know what to do. What did her left leg say to her right leg?
I don't know. What did her left leg say to her right leg?
Nothing. They never met.
Oh, God. Oh, I was so slow on the uptake there. That's embarrassing.
It's okay.
That's funny. That's funny.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready for joke number 2.
Okay. Why do some men like to marry virgins?
I don't know why.
because they can't stand criticism.
That's a good one, and I believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not a joke. That's the truth.
It is. And here's my infamous Cinderella joke that I always tell. Okay. So Cinderella is about to go to the ball, but she's on her period. So the fairy godmother gives her these magic tampons and says, okay, you can go to the ball, but you have to be home by midnight or else they'll turn into a pumpkin. She says, okay, fairy godmother, I will. So 12:30 rolls around, and Cinderella hasn't shown up, so fairy godmother is pacing around the house angry. But then she does show up at 4 a.m., stumbling drunk. And fairy godmother says, where were you? You were supposed to be home at midnight. And Cinderella says, I'm so sorry, fairy godmother. I met this great guy. His name was Peter Peter.
Oh. Yuck. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Well, Suzy, this was such an honor. I thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, Tommy, thank you so much for finding me and calling me. This was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Had a good time remembering all these wonderful movies.
Yes, you're a sweet lady, and you far exceeded my expectations. I thank you so much for coming on, and that I hope people wake up and invite you to things so I can come meet you.
That would be wonderful, Tommy. I hope that happens too. Thank you so much for giving me the call and giving me a chance to be on your show.
You gave me the call, but I understand what you mean.
Right. Anyway. Oops. But thank you again. Thank you so much. This is really, really fun. And I wish you best of luck with your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I've been very lucky with the people I've gotten, and I feel very satisfactory that I gave you an orgasm earlier.
Yeah, Tommy, thanks a lot for that one.
Okay, Suzy, you have yourself a wonderful day.
Thanks, Tommy. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Suzy Stokey. Ain't she a sweetheart? I like her a lot. She is a lot of fun. She is very humble. She's very full of life. I really did enjoy talking to her. Sweet lady. And I hope people just wake the fuck up and they start, inviting her to conventions and stuff, because she deserves it. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes. Wake up, a sweet Suzy. Wake up, do-do-do-do-do. Wake up, sweet Suzy. Wake up,